Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Vernell Samuel, your marriage advisor, relationship coach. I am going to be talking to you today about the 5 love languages. I'm going to explain what are the 5 love languages, what's all the hype about. Is it really that important? I know some of you might have probably heard about the 5 love languages. Maybe you thought it was just all rah-rah or another relationship hype. But listen, I'm going to explain to you why the 5 love languages, knowing what the love languages are, knowing what your love language is, and what your partner's love language is, why this is extremely critical, how it can literally be a game changer, a deal breaker in your relationship if you don't communicate in your partner's love language. So we're about to jump right into that. Before I begin, I want you to push the subscribe button if you have not, so that you can stay in connection with me and I can stay in connection with you, and you can receive more relationship advice that's going to bring heaven into your love life. I also want to encourage you to purchase my book, A Match Made in Heaven, the 6 Spiritual Laws to Lasting Love and Connection. And I also have a new ebook that if you haven't purchased it yet, Healing the Broken Heart. All right. So all of that you can find in the description below. But right now, I want to talk to you about these 5 love languages. The 5 love languages is based off of a book by an author named Gary Chapman. And how I stumbled on these 5 love languages was almost, my wife and I has been married now 13 years. I stumbled on this maybe in the 3rd year of my marriage. My wife and I, we got married in 2010. We were in love. We were happy. We were dating for probably less than a year. We dated for about 8 months, and we got married in 3 months after that. So our courtship and marriage, the whole entire process was really quick. And this is where it's so important, ladies. I'm telling you, when a man knows what he wants, it doesn't take long for him to decide if he wants to marry you or not. All right. That's another video. But I'm telling you, every man that I know who married knew within a very short time that the woman that they met, they knew they wanted to marry them. All right. So my wife and I, we were in love. We got married very quickly. But one mistake that we did was that we did not seek out premarital counseling, right? So we didn't go and get pre-marriage. We didn't sit down with anybody to really work with us about the things that we would encounter after we got married, right? And one lesson you want to learn is the things that you do or the things that you expect your partner to do before you get married is not necessarily automatically what your partner will continue to do after you get married, right? There are things that we do when we are firstly in love, when we fall in love, that honestly, when the infatuation stage is over, a lot of the things that we used to do easily to try to wow and impress the person that we want, that we love to love us back, we oftentimes take that person for granted and we just don't show them the same intensity. So you just gotta understand that love is intentional. Love is not just a feeling. It's an intentional decision that you have to do every single day. And so anyway, my wife and I, we didn't get premarital counseling. We met with her pastor, but we probably had 1 or 2 very, very short conversations about what to expect with marriage. But we didn't go in depth. Like today, when I meet with couples, man, I go in. because I like to get couples to talk about the things that I know they're going to fight about after they get married. I want them to fight about them now. I want them to have conflict now. I want them to wrestle through these hard conversations before they say I do, so that they can get clarity, not just so that I can break them up or get them to not like each other, but it's about getting them to become aware and awake and sober of the weight of the decisions that they're about to step into once they get married. So my wife and I, we never argued before we got married. We never had any issues. I mean, we just thought that this was just gonna be a bed of roses. And lo and behold, after we got married, we got into our first argument, and we were like, whoa, I never saw this side of you. And she didn't see one side of me, and I didn't see a certain side of her. And by year 3 of our marriage, it wasn't all bad in the beginning, but by year 3, due to some major decisions that I made personally to change my career, we got into a really, really tough space. And it was really bad. We didn't know if we were going to make it. I mean, we were really thinking about calling it quits. And I remember we sat down with a friend of mine who was a pastor. We had a really great conversation, and he brought some things to our awareness about each other. And it was around that time, I'm not sure if he told us about it or if one of us stumbled upon the book, The 5 Love Languages. But I remember this book came into our consciousness, our awareness. And it was like almost like God just said, hey, this is the saving grace for your relationship. And we went online and we said, let's take this 5 love language test. I mean, what can happen? Like, we already were wondering if we were going to make it. And my wife did the test, and her love language came back as receiving gifts. And when I took the test, my love language came back as words of affirmation. So what was interesting was that on the other side, that while words of affirmation was my top love language, my wife's lowest love language was words of affirmation, and vice versa. Receiving gifts was like the lowest on my end, and that was the highest on her end. So what does that mean? It means that for the first 3 years of our marriage, my wife and I were speaking 2 different languages. So did we love each other? Absolutely. Did we love each other? Absolutely. Did my wife and I, did we love each other? Absolutely. We were fighting not because we didn't love each other. We were fighting because we weren't connecting with each other. And there's a difference between communicating and connecting. Everybody communicates, but very few connect. And what you really want in your relationship is to connect, to be heard, to be known, to be understood, to be seen, to feel appreciated. Those are the things that makes you feel like you're being loved. And the love language basically explains the theory that every single one of us communicates our love. We give love and we receive love primarily in a certain love language. I'm going to say that again. Every single one of us primarily gives love and receives love in a dominant love language. All right. And there are just 5 love languages. There are just 5 love languages. And I want you to write them down. I want you to take notes or just take a mental note. The 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, quality time, and receiving gifts. Okay? We all primarily give and receive love in one of these 5 love languages. Now, all 5 of these things all together, we all do them. We all like them in some way, shape, or form. But here's what happens, right? Like when I was talking about my wife and I speaking 2 different languages. If my wife speaks Chinese and I speak Russian, my wife can be telling me she loves me in Chinese every single day, 24/7. But if I don't understand her language, it doesn't matter what she says. She could be saying, I love you. I could be thinking she's saying, I hate you, because we're speaking 2 different languages. In order for me to understand her, I must understand her language. In order for you to truly reveal the love that you have to the person that you're with, you have to understand their love language. This is where the disconnect happens. So again, using my wife and I's story, I remember my wife, because gifts were her primary love language at the time. I remember my wife, we would be having arguments and she would come home and maybe pick up a nice button-up shirt from an expensive store and give that to me. But for me, that felt like, well, you're trying to buy a shirt for me when you talked to me in a way that I didn't feel respected, and you think that's going to make up for it? Because my love language, at the time, my primary love language was words of affirmation. So a gift to me didn't translate as love. And so she would give me a shirt and I'll just put it on the bed or hang it up and not really show much appreciation or gratefulness for it, because that wasn't my love language, that was hers. You see that? So now when I discard her gift or don't show appreciation for that gift, I only made her feel more unloved when she was actually trying to show me love with the gift. And for me, telling her how great she is, or my acts of service, I would do a lot for my wife, making her show like, listen, I'm a great man. Look at how I'm providing, or look at how I'm showing up for you and supporting you. You should appreciate that. But the one thing she was looking for more from me, as much as all of that was great, she wanted more gifts. And I thought gift giving was something that was superficial or shallow even. You see, I just thought that's buying something wasn't really a real way of showing love. I thought that was something you did around birthdays, holidays, Christmas. But no, I didn't understand that my wife wanted me to give her tokens of expressions of her love, of my love for her, by what I would pick up along the day. It's not so much about buying expensive gifts with a person that has a gift love language. It's really the thought that you put into picking up something that reminded you of the person, that makes them feel loved. And so, long story short, when I learned my wife's love language and she learned my love language, it changed everything in our marriage. Oh my God, I can't even tell you. When I meet Gary Chapman, I'm going to give him the biggest hug. I'll take him to dinner. I'll find out what his love language is, whatever it is, and I'll do that for him. Simply because it literally saved my marriage. To the point that we're now, guys, any couple that I meet with for premarital counseling or even marriage counseling, I make them do the love language test. Tell them you need to learn your spouse's love language right now, and you need to love them in their love language. That's how you appropriate the love languages in your relationship. Okay? So you need to understand what your love language is. And again, you can go to Gary Chapman's website. I'll also have the link in my descriptions. And you can take the love language test, find out what your love language is. And, usually it's rare that you'll find a couple that has exactly the same love language, right? But most of us all have different love languages. And so you got to know what that person's love language is. So let me just explain, right, what each love language is, so that you can maybe understand, identify based off of what I'm telling you, what your love language is. So the first love language is words of affirmation, right? Words of affirmation. And all that simply means is that a person's who their primary love language is words of affirmation, they feel the most loved and they feel the most appreciated when a person speaks highly of them and what they do. Okay? This person feels loved through words of encouragement, through words of appreciation, through words of respect. Okay? When you speak to the person with affirming words of kindness about their actions, there's nothing that you can do to supplement that. Okay? Words of affirmation are a big deal. For this person, again, telling them you are great, telling them you are amazing, telling them that they are appreciated, leaving notes, sending them text messages. This really does more for them than anything else you can do. Okay? Second love language is acts of service. Acts of service. And an acts of service person feels loved and appreciated through your actions, right? For them, action speaks louder than words. So they don't need to hear words to feel loved, or they don't need to, they may not necessarily even show you their love with their words, but they will do it by their service for you, running errands, taking care of things around the house, finding out what you need and getting it done for you. This type of person is willing to drop everything, lay down their own personal conveniences just to satisfy you and make you feel loved and appreciated. All right? And an acts of service person feels loved not by what you do, not by what you say to them, but what you do for them. Okay? So, for example, I counseled a couple who the wife's love language was acts of service, and the husband's love language was gifts, right? And my man would go out and lavish her with gifts, and he was expecting that the money he put out to buy things to show her how much he loved her, he felt insulted. He felt less than a man when it felt like it wasn't doing anything for her. And I explained to him, I said, bro, let's take a love language test. And lo and behold, the love language test revealed that his wife's love language was acts of service. So I said, question, has your wife ever told you that she would like you to do more things around the house? He was like, all the time. But I work, I do this, I do that. I said, bruh, she's telling you what she wants to feel loved. I said, forget about the gifts right now. Go and clean up the house and let me know what happens. He came back to me a week later. He said, yo, I can't believe it worked. The intimacy began to pick up immediately because that was her love language. See, this is why I'm telling you, it's not just enough to know your own love language and try to use your love language on the other person to get them to know that you love them. No, 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 no. You need to step into the other person's shoes, develop empathy, and begin to say, well, what does this person actually like? What do they want to feel loved? Right? So he was like, man, I spent all that money. And you mean to tell me all I needed to do was just pick up a broom and sweep? I'll say you would have saved yourself $1,000. All right. That's what I'm talking about. So that an acts of service person, action speaks louder than anything else. Words, gifts, anything. All right. Receiving gifts. Receiving gifts. Once again, this love language revolves around the sentiment that giving and receiving gifts are a way that a person can feel loved. Okay. And so once again, as I mentioned, meaningful presence that you might pick up and present to them lets them know it's the thought behind the gift that makes them feel appreciated. Quality time. Quality time. This is a big one. For a person whose love language is quality time, everything else is nice, but what they want more than anything else is that they have your undivided attention. This person wants to just be with you. This person wants to just spend that time with you. They feel like being around you makes them feel cherished, or them being with you, they feel cherished. They show that they are here. When I'm here, I'm here. Okay, I don't got my phone. I don't got no laptop. I don't got, even if we're watching a TV, watching a movie together, watching memes together on social media, whatever it is, quality time makes this person feels the most cherished. All right. And finally, the last love language is physical touch. Boy, we can't forget about that. Physical touch person says, hey, affection, physical affection, touching, hugging, cuddling, kissing. This makes them feel loved. When you refuse to touch, when you refuse to hold them, when you don't have that physical connection, a physical touch person is turned off. This person feels like they don't feel like they are truly wanted by a person. If they try to touch you and you refuse it, they feel worse than anything else because you are denying them that ability to show you love by their touching and their physicality. All right. So once again, my homework for you, I want you to go and find out what your love language is. If you're not dating anyone right now, still know what your love language is. It's important. And if you're you're dating, you're engaged, or even if you're married, I'm encouraging you, do this as a little exercise. Share your love language with your spouse or your partner and vice versa. You guys exchange it. Read what their primary love language is. Discover what makes them feel loved and encourage them to know the same about you. And spend, let's say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just simply doing what the other person does to make them feel loved. And just see what happens. Speak their love language and see if the relationship goes from, if you were at a 2, I can guarantee you guys are going to go to a 7. If it was at a 5, I can guarantee you guys are going to go to an 8 or a 9, because everyone wants to feel loved. It's not just enough to just say you love a person, but a person wants to feel that love, and it only happens when you speak their love language. All right? So I pray that this video blessed you. Share this if you feel like this was of any benefit to anyone in and around your life. And hey, I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, Vernell Samuel. Follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. All of my handles are Vernell Samuel. And I pray that you will see heaven in your love life this year. God bless you. See you in the next video.